So, recently, Spider-Man 2 has been re-released in theaters along with all the other Spider-Man. Squeedo
Yes, sir.
watched it.
Spider-Man days.
Squeedo watched it in theaters. So I want you to talk about it, Squeedo. How'd it go?
So, watching Spider-Man 2 in theaters it's like watching the movie for the first time again. At least for someone like me that never saw it in theaters, or my dad claims I did, but I was only 2, so I wouldn't remember watching Spider-Man 2 in theaters. So for me, technically, this was a first-time watch of Spider-Man 2 in theaters, and it's they've already done the first Spider-Man, and then this week is Spider-Man 2, and then they're gonna do all the sequels and everything, and the Amazing Spider-Man, the Tom Holland ones, the next few weeks, and it just feels so special because a lot of the audience members are people around my age that grew up with these movies, and they just love every second of them, every line. They meme the hell out of them, and so it feels like when you're watching this kind of movie with so many like-minded people, that when the audience starts clapping and cheering for certain moments, it feels like so good. I don't know what it is. It's like I feel proud that like this movie exists, and it's a thing that I can watch with people such as myself. So watching in theaters it's a great experience, honestly.
Well,
Truly amazing.
this draws a parallel to what I was talking about earlier. You're surrounded by like-minded individuals, which makes your experience all the more richer. Even
Yeah,
if you
yeah, of
never
course.
even if you never share a word, it's just like an uncommunicated similarity. It's crazy how humans work, but that's what it is. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, just like in the theater, there were people dressed as Spider-Man. There, Spider-Man shirts everywhere. Everyone knows Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man. We grew up with these movies, so
Indeed, indeed.
it was just a great a great time sitting down and watching Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 in a theater with other people. It was
Cinema.
just it really felt like watching the movie for the first time again, and I have a newfound appreciation for it. I already thought it was like one of the best superhero movies ever made, but it's somehow I love it even more,
Hmm.
and it's insane.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I remember watching Spider-Man 2 years back, and I can't get over how much of a classic that film is. I mean, there's some people who put that movie up there with some of the best of all time. Me personally, I'm not too sure of that sentiment, but I can see why people do, because it's definitely it's a one of a kind. It's so special. It really is.
Yeah, and a lot of that is really just Sam Raimi's direction, because he's such a legendary filmmaker, and
It really is.
I feel like people don't. I mean, he has a lot of fans, and people, say he's a great director, but I feel like he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves from a lot of people.
Let me pause you. Let me pause you. When it comes to Sam Raimi, it doesn't matter how much credit you give him, he's still underrated. Continue.
Because I forgot what I was going to say now. Um,
Was it Sam Raimi? Sam Raimi doesn't get enough attention, and he does have his fans, but Sam Raimi.
if you go back and watch Sam Raimi's movies, they're timeless, and it's just his style. His style of filmmaking elevates all the movies he does to another level. Like the one thing that has really popped out to me in this particular rewatch of Spider-Man 2 is that every time there's a visual effect in the movie of some kind, whether it's like a fight scene or something with Doc Ock, there's always a shot, whether it's at the end of that digital sequence or maybe even in the middle of it, with a practical, real stunt actor on a set, or even in front of like a green or blue screen.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have that reference to where, like, in your head there's always that uncanny valley of just, yeah, this CGI doesn't look great, but then it immediately cuts to a stunt person in a Spider-Man suit doing the same pose or motion as the CGI version was, and it just makes it feel all the more grounded. Because 2004, the CGI is not going to look great, and
Right.
there's a couple scenes that stick out more than others, but because it's blended so naturally with the realism and the live action shots, it has aged like fine wine. It's still so good, and it holds up so well.
Well, that's the argument with CGI, is that it shouldn't be entirely CGI. That CGI should be supplemental.
Hmm.
It should be The practical effects and CGI should enhance that rather than just it being CGI alone, which I can definitely get behind. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you look at Marvel movies and such, and while I loved the phases up to Endgame, you can tell that like they cut a lot of corners to get stuff out on time. You know,
Hmm.
I'm talking about the good phase of Marvel. These are great movies, but when you have at the end of the day, films, they're not really meant to be off an assembly line. They're meant to be taken care of and slowly curated over an extended period of time. You know,
Hmm.
so that's
Yeah, I mean, even a good example of like if you want to compare the MCU to the Spider-Man trilogy, just look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man suit compared to Tobey's. Like Tom's in a lot of scenes, especially in like Homecoming, or actually, I'm gonna use Civil War as an example here,
hmm.
because in Civil War, if you watch the behind the scenes of that movie, Tom Holland was wearing a different Spider-Man suit than the one that we saw in the finished product, and it's just because they changed the suit with CG. So
Hmm.
what he was wearing behind the scenes does not translate to the Spider-Man suit that he wears in the finished movie, and even that same suit is in Homecoming. And then you look at Tobey's Spider-Man suit, and while it doesn't look it's not a spandex material like Tom's is, so it's not
Hmm.
as like clean. When the suit gets damaged, you can see it in the live action shots. When he's fighting Doc Ock, his suit is getting ripped apart, and then you see it in CGI, but then it always cuts to a live action shot of him, wearing the suit without the mask on or something, and you
That
can see
serves.
all the damage and everything and the dirt on the suit.
That is actually such a good point. The suit, Tobey Maguire's suit, may not be as initially aesthetically pleasing as a Tom Holland suit, but the suit itself serves a greater purpose, and
Hmm.
it's used a lot better in the overall storyline than a Tom Holland Spider-Man suit. That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
because I mean, if you look at all the movies, Tom Holland's suit doesn't get ripped up or anything
Yeah.
at all. Like it's a spandex, and yet he takes like no damage.
That's the thing. Like maybe a little bit here and there. There's a few examples, but they're not ingrained into the story like a Spider-Man 1 or 2, especially
Hmm.
one with the fight scene against Green Goblin. You know.
Oh yeah, with half his mask is like
Yeah,
blown off. Yeah,
exactly. They never did that shit with Spider-Man. Come on now. They even did it
yeah.
with Iron Man when he knocked his fucking the armor with the symbiotes and shit, whatever it was. The nanobots. Yeah, the nanobot
Yeah,
suit when
yeah.
Thanos was fighting him and the pieces were coming off. Like that's good storytelling. You know, it
Hmm.
shows he's down to his last mile. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, no,
I do agree with you. It's definitely fits the story and serves the story a lot better doing it the way Sam Raimi did it. Absolutely.
yeah. It's just so much to appreciate now going back and rewatching those movies. And like I noticed so much more. And the thing that really stuck out to me this time around, and it's a staple of Sam Raimi, but it's the camera work. The camera work in Spider-Man 2 is literally it's second to none.
Hands down.
Even for establishing shots, that shit is great. I always think of the scene that stuck out to me was the scene in, I believe it's a diner, where MJ asks Peter to meet with her because she has feelings for him again. And the,
Mhm.
the establishing shot is that it shows the outside of the diner, and like it looks up at the building, the camera, and then it moves down and into the building through the glass window. And in
Right.
one continuous shot, the camera moves through the window. So obviously the window is like CG or whatever, but then the camera rotates all the way around the table that MJ is sitting at to show Peter when he walks in. So it's a simple establishing shot of two people meeting in a diner, and yet the camera moves in such a dynamic way. The entire movie is shot like this. It's insane.
It's a seemingly little thing, but it makes the movie that much more immersive. It makes it feel grounded as well, as if
Yeah.
your POV is the camera. You get it.
It really just shows how much time and love and effort went into these movies.
It's
Every
beautiful.
frame looks so good.
And I can say that this Mary Jane, while I do enjoy the Zendaya Mary Jane, I can say that this Mary Jane for me, I just prefer it. You know what I mean? I feel
Yeah.
like when you go down to a Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man, things are kind of boiled down to digestive, bite-sized pieces when it comes to subject matter. And
Hmm.
Kirsten Dunst character was a lot more complicated, and not everybody gets everything about that character, which you could think of as confusing, but really it's all about perspective. You know, so
Yeah.
I think Kirsten Dunst's character was definitely a lot more complicated, which I also prefer. Other people might prefer the other one, and that's fine. You can do that. That's no problem. But I
Hmm.
personally think Kirsten Dunst being more complicated and not as obvious is definitely to the movie's positive rather than the detriment, benefit rather
Yeah.
than detriment.
For sure. I mean, I used to not really like this version of Mary Jane that much, because I always found her kind of unlikable, specifically in the second movie, just how she reacts to Peter. But like watching it this time around and like really paying attention to her arc and her writing, she's such a well written, fleshed out, dynamic character, and that this time around when she's like being mean towards Peter, I get it.
Right.
The movie really does a good job of showing you both sides, and even Peter himself kind of understands of like why MJ doesn't like him the same way in Spider-Man 2. So that's another thing of like with this re-release is when you
Yeah.
look at the writing, it's everything just comes out so much better.
I may not
And
agree
so
with
yeah,
it, but I can see it because
yeah,
MJ doesn't really see a future with Peter, and Peter doesn't even see a future, even though he wants that. If he thinks about it logically, yeah, he can't assume more responsibility. He already got Aunt May to worry about, you know.
yeah.
But
And he's fucking Spider-Man.
exactly, right. And so with Peter, it's completely understandable why Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane doesn't think of Peter as somebody that can be around and that she can build a life with. But she
Hmm.
does it anyway because love is, it's not rational. It is what it is.
Yeah. Well, once she realizes her true feelings about Peter, I mean, she runs straight to him
Yeah.
and she accepts everything about him. But I feel like, and I haven't seen it in a
Hmm.
while, but I feel like Spider-Man 3 kind of undoes that
Oh, of course. No, yeah. No,
with the
yeah.
relationship.
That's not even a debate. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so far with Spider-Man 1 and 2, like rewatching these movies in theaters, it's just I love the build up uh from, just Peter having a high school crush on MJ to this point of, MJ leaves a man at the altar
Yeah.
and she runs straight to Peter.
I don't like the fact that she did that. She kind of like just like kind of said, "Fuck you, who cares?" Yeah, I know you love me, you wanted to make
Yeah.
fuck you. It doesn't matter. Like, but I know it's just meant to be more of just like the imagery of it. It's like, you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
I was gonna take this path, but I'll take this one instead. You're not really meant to think about the consequences of this character. The one that she was gonna
Yeah.
go for. You're not supposed to. But if you do think about it, it's like, damn, what a bitch. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I
Exactly.
mean? So you understand where they're coming from a creative perspective, but if you take it in a literal sense, Kirsten, yo, Mary Jane is a B word, son. That's it.
Yeah. That is so
Ridiculous.
true. See, this was the MCU now. People are like, oh, but what happened to John Jameson after?
Yeah.
It's like, who
Yo, he
gives a
needs his
fuck?
own extended universe. Come on now.
Yeah, who gives a fuck, man?
Fucking
It's
hell.
about Peter and MJ. They're the
Exactly.
main characters.
Who cares? Right, exactly. Definitely something to point out, but I don't think it goes against the movie at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely
Also,
not.
how convenient is it that the guy MJ is dating happens to be J. Jonah Jameson's son?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's real
Like of all the
convenient.
people.
It's real fucking convenient, but this is a story. You know what I mean? This
Yeah,
story
yeah.
is meant to be in a way where you can apply it to your own life or somebody else's real life story. You can apply it to that and just change the names around and change the logistics around. You know what I'm saying? So that's
Mhm.
it. That's all it's meant to be. It has to all be interconnected in some way. And yes, it's 100% a coincidence. But does that really matter? You know what I mean?
It's an excuse to have J.K. Simmons in the movie more, and I'll take
Damn
it.
right. I don't think anybody is against that. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. His scenes always get the biggest laughs
Oh
in the
yeah.
theater. It
Yo,
got the pops were crazy.
yeah, the pops in the theater were wild. No, dude, J. Jonah Jameson is literally the goated character of that trilogy. Like, no matter what you think of those movies, J. Jonah Jameson is impervious to criticism. Those scenes are always perfect, no matter what.
Yeah,
Amazing.
for sure. And I just love how like every time in the background the Daily Bugle looks so chaotic and hectic, and like it matches his
Yeah.
energy as a boss. So I love that little touch.
Hey yo, what was that one character? I think her name's Elizabeth Banks. What's that character called?
Oh, Betty Brant.
Yo, growing up is knowing that Betty Brant was the option for Peter. Come on now. Ooh,
That you're not
chingado.
wrong. You're not wrong with
Yo,
that.
chingas. You know what I mean? Got it? She's hot, man. But, no. I remember seeing that all over Instagram. That, como se says, like, oh, to be honest, she was probably the least toxic woman that Peter knew. It was like,
Yeah,
you know what?
yeah.
That makes a
It's
lot
either
of
her
sense.
or Gwen, really, in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, for real. Except he knew Gwen for like 2 minutes. You know what I mean? That's the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. That's the difference with Gwen and Betty.
Yeah. Betty was the obvious choice. I'm surprised they never. They hinted at it in 2. I think in 3 even. I don't know, but I know they hinted at it a little bit. It's like, damn, she's real supportive, chin up. Like, hey. You
Yeah,
know?
it's definitely more in 3 though when he's just straight up flirting with her when he
Right,
has the black suit.
right.
Yeah,
I remember now. Yeah, because he did his old fucking his villain arc.
yeah. Bully
Yeah.
McGuire.
That's wild. Oh my god, dude, the Spider-Man trilogy is literally goated. Like even like 3, I know it's bad quality wise, but bro, it's legendary. Yeah, I mean it is what it
Yeah,
is.
it's still so stylized and so funny that it honestly makes up for like any shortcomings the movie has. You can watch it any day, and Spider-Man 3 is still fun as fuck.
It's truly beautiful, indeed.
It's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
damn straight.
beautiful
Now,
ass movie.
I think Spider-Man trilogy for me. Okay. I'll ask you the question: who's your favorite villain in the Spider-Man trilogy? Tobey Maguire.
I'm gonna be honest, it's Green Goblin for sure.
Same. It's
A
to
lot
me-
of people, even myself included, love Doc Ock.
Of course.
Such a great character, extremely well written. But I think to me, what elevates Green Goblin more is not only his connection to Peter, but also the way the first movie was structured. You had the origin story of Spider-Man and Green Goblin happening right alongside each other,
Absolutely.
and then you see their arcs through the movie like side by side. And
It's
I
a
think that shit is
duality,
great.
a yin and yang. It's one thing, one side where the person is using their powers for greed and psychosis, and it goes into psychosis. And then you have the other side of it where that person is using their powers for good and to make other people's lives better rather than his own. So you got the selfish millionaire, and then you have the poor hero, that kind of thing. Now, the one thing I also want to say that elevates that character to the umpteenth degree is the performance of Willem Dafoe. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's no better Green Goblin. I've never seen it.
Willem Dafoe he's just one of those actors where
special.
you see him in a movie, you know he's gonna do good. Like
Yeah.
even if the movie's bad, he's the best part. It's like
Absolutely.
Willem Dafoe he's such a legendary fucking actor.
And he'd be pulling out random cameos sometimes. Like when I saw him in The Northman, I'm like, whoa, hold on. What? Oh, okay, you're here.
Yeah, exactly.
Wild. I love Willem Dafoe so much. And so he definitely elevated Green Goblin, just like how J.K. Simmons elevated J. Jonah Jameson. Absolutely.
For sure. And I mean, this is like not to knock any of the other actors that have played other villains in the trilogy. I think there isn't a villain I don't like in the Spider-Man trilogy.
You know
Like,
what? Hold on. You're talking.
What's up?
You're talking about Venom here? Even Venom?
Yeah, even Venom.
Wow. Go ahead. I'll
So-
hear this.
So what I like about this version of Venom is that he's not like the normal Eddie Brock, where he's like this big buff, bully that just hates Peter Parker for no reason.
Right.
He's like the anti Spider-Man, because when you really look at them right next to each other, they're both photographers. They're both they both have women that they really like in their lives. The difference is Eddie Brock is just more pathetic, and he's a lot more egotistical than Peter is. And so, he's like the nice guy that we root for. Eddie Brock is the guy that you fucking despise and never want to see again. But
Right.
the two characters side by side are not that different. They both have a lot of the same wants in their lives.
I like it in concept. The only thing I disagree with here is that you look at the complicated figures of a Doc Ock, of a Green
Mm-hmm.
Goblin, where they have a family, that they have good sides to their madness. You know what I mean? Whereas like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this for the betterment of my company, who will save people, whatever, but you're killing people in the process. And Doc
Mm-hmm.
Ock, who is doing this because he wants to start again and create this new source. He knows he can do it,
Mm-hmm.
but he continues to hurt people to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Sandman, where he's trying to save his daughter, but by doing that, he's getting people hurt and he's robbing bank. You know, so there's an obvious level of human to their characters.
Yeah.
Eddie Brock in Spider-Man 3, he goes from a guy who's disrespected, and then he goes to Venom. There's no ounce of respectability there. Not once
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. There's no humanness to him other than that he's pathetic. You know, if
Yeah.
there was a good side of him that, like, let's say, for example, he turned worthless, and then he tried going good, but it didn't work, and he continued
Mm-hmm.
to try to go good, and it didn't work, and then over time, eventually, it led to him becoming a villain. Then maybe, but there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't enough time to develop that, and I blame that on the studio. I do not blame that on
Yeah.
Sam Raimi, but know that that's why I disagree. I don't like that villain because you look at
Yeah.
I'm comparing him directly to the other ones. He's
Mm-hmm.
easily the worst out of all of them, and the
Yeah.
other ones are good compared to him.
I don't
Absolutely.
disagree that he's the worst out of all the villains, and I can totally see like the fact that he barely got any development, and you don't have that attachment to him as a character like you
Right.
do all the others. But I think that's also part of what makes Venom interesting when you look at that villain lineup of the whole trilogy. He's the only one that feels irredeemable compared to the others.
Mm-hmm.
Like Green Goblin is basically the Joker, and he was already too far gone by the end of the movie, but we saw what he was like before he was the Green Goblin, and so you care about him. You know what he's like as a person. You've gotten to understand him. You see his side, but it's just when he becomes the Green Goblin, it's like that evilness is turned up to 11, and so it's like the version of Norman that you knew is now gone. And then of course Doc Ock redeems himself at the end. Sandman, he was never really a bad person from the start. He just, as he claims, he had bad luck. And then you look at Eddie Brock, and he just feels like,
Fucking slimeball.
yeah. And like I said earlier, he's the anti-Spider-Man. Spider-Man is the ultimate human being. He's so hopeful. We care about him, and it's like, yeah, while his life may not be great,
Mm-hmm.
he accepts the good things and he uses his responsibility for acts of good. Whereas Eddie Brock is the opposite. He's a pathetic loser, and as soon as he gets the Venom symbiote, he doesn't use it for the good of people. He uses it for selfish gain
He's
or for
going into
revenge.
business for himself. Correct.
Yeah, he is the anti-Spider-Man, and I think that's why that version of Venom is still interesting. He's not the greatest villain. There's so many other
Mm-hmm.
comic book villains way better than Topher Grace's Venom.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of the movie, and for Sam Raimi, who's not even really a fan of Venom, to adapt the character in the way that he did, I think it fits the movie, and I think he's still an interesting enough character for that story.
You know what I think, and I still disagree with you. I don't like Brock, but I do want to add something that I think would have made it a lot better. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why I like Eddie Brock is because at the end of the day, he's not an imposing villain. He's not somebody you're scared that Spider-Man's can't beat. Sandman was. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Sandman was this big fucking colossal figure that we've never seen before. Sandman was whooping
Yeah,
that ass. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
como se dice? But Venom, he had a couple moments in the final boss fight, like all boss fights do.
mm-hmm.
But he didn't have that level of imposing, threatening. Where like, yeah, where he was like, what's the word? Like his own madness seemed intimidating to the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to add that there are examples of this where the villain can be all bad and still extremely compelling. It doesn't have to be human.
I mean,
He
Green
doesn't have to
Goblin.
have human traits.
Yeah.
Green Goblin definitely does have human traits because he thinks of his son. And it's his
But by
alter.
by the end, though,
It's his alter ego, and then he switches back to the good side of him, and then his alter ego comes back again. There are human aspects to him, even in the end. But
mm-hmm.
One thing I want to add to, I think that would have made Brock a lot stronger of a character, is that he should have been more imposing. He should have been a lot more scary. Like how Green Goblin attacked Aunt May. Green Goblin should have done some shit that, como se dice, like confirmed it. Like what if Green Goblin killed Aunt May? That would have been something. You know what I mean? Like not Green Goblin, Venom. If Venom killed Aunt May, or something along the lines where Venom is now a level 1 threat, because that's what he's presented as at the end. A level 1 threat. He never did that. He teamed up with Sandman, but he was never a level 1 threat. I think a good way to a good example of a villain that exhibits no human traits is an absolutely unforgivable asshole that you can't relate to, but is still imposing and addicting to watch, is Kevin Spacey's villain in Seven. He's an absolute piece of shit. He kills all of these people because of his own self-righteous good through the Bible, but he's still so damn imposing because he's shown that, hey, Brad Pitt, I can kill you whenever the fuck I want. You two are completely under my web. I'm manipulating both of you so you can kill me right now and get the final sin. He was always in control. Venom never had that. So that's what I have. I think that definitely, if they made Venom more imposing, he could have been a better villain. But as it was just too much to fit into one movie, and we didn't have enough.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, for sure.
I think we can agree at least on that.
No, the amount of characters is really what brings Spider-Man 3 down a lot. Because, I mean, you look at the story structure, and it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So you start with Spider-Man living his best life, and then you go on to Sandman, the introduction of him. Spider-Man and Sandman meet, and then there's also the introduction of Eddie Brock.
Right.
And then Peter gets the black suit. He fights Sandman.
Hold on. Pause. Let's not even forget James Franco's character.
That's right, Green Goblin.
A whole ass other person who started a villain, but then changed to a hero. That kind of turn, forgiving a man for killing your father, requires a lot more development than, hey, I didn't tell you this one thing. Turns out the rotor blades were from his own from his own ship. That's wild. Anyway, automatically forgiven. You know what I'm saying? It's just way too little time. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, and I mean, focusing on Harry for a second, I feel like his turn to the what is called the new Goblin, even though he's just Green Goblin.
It's forced! It's so goddamn forced!
It is very forced, because if you remember at the end of Spider-Man 2, when he's talking to Willem Dafoe in the mirror, the reflection of his father, Norman says, "Avenge me," and Harry says, "No." So he still hesitates. Well, as soon as he finds out Peter is Spider-Man, he's not like, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking kill Spider-Man." He's just like, he's torn. He's just like, all right, so Spider-Man killed my dad, or at least I think he did, but Spider-Man's also my best friend. And so he's torn. There's like all these mixed emotions. And then as soon as you start Spider-Man 3's, I'm gonna fucking kill Peter. It's like, what? Where did that development come from?
It's so goddamn jarring. It's all of a sudden now he wants to kill him. You know what? Once again, if this movie had more time to develop things, then absolutely I would be 100% for eventually him being a villain, because then it could have been, okay, maybe he starts questioning, maybe he starts prodding, maybe he starts you know what it could have been? It could have been Spider-Man 3, him against Sandman, right, doing his thing, and that James Franco's constantly like prodding, like asking questions, eventually trying to find more evidence, building a hateful narrative towards Spider-Man, and you can see him slowly descend into madness, because that was the start of it. Eventually gets to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm going to sabotage this Sandman fight, and that's when he gets introduced, right then and there. At the end of 3 or 4, he could be the main villain, either one.
Yeah, but he definitely deserves his own movie, I think.
Of course! It's either that it's only him and no Venom. It's Sandman and maybe Green Goblin, if you could maybe figure that out, but I wouldn't do that. But if there was a Spider-Man 4, then you would move it on to Spider-Man 4. So it just fucking sucks that Sony as a company thinks, put Venom, we need to make more dollars. Dude, you'll make so much more in the long run if you just shut the fuck up and let a winning formula continue to win. Ridiculous.
And another thing that brings Spider-Man 3 down is that fucking amnesia storyline with Harry.
Oh,
You introduce Harry as the
bro!
Green Goblin, and you have him try to kill Peter, as Peter just told Aunt May that he wants to propose to Mary Jane, which he has the ring, right, and the whole fight he's trying to get the ring back, because
Yeah,
like it fell out of his pocket. Like that's an interesting storyline
I
to have
agree.
for that fight. But then you end it with Harry getting amnesia. He forgets the last two movies ever happened, and you only bring all of a sudden his memory comes back when he needs to be relevant to the plot. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. I mean,
That it really brings the movie down so much, and it's because of the runtime and the amount of characters.
it's so painful to witness. It really is. I mean, it's basically just shooting your own fucking child. They're like, oh, it's all right, kid. You gotta make this last bit of money. Fucking ridiculous. God damn it, Sony.
Yeah. Yeah, no, what we had was so good with Spider-Man 1 and 2, but
And
3 has so many problems.
you want to know how scummy Sony is? They already had Amazing Spider-Man in the fucking chamber. And like, oh, actually, we were going to think about rebooting. What the fuck you mean rebooting? We're doing good here. What? All right, sure. Fuck it. Take it away.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Sam Raimi, he blames himself for like, oh, I never really finished the script. I don't agree with you, Sam. I really don't. I think that you should be given a reasonable amount of time to finish a really complicated script. Fuck, I guess that's a foreign fucking thought to Hollywood. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It really sucks. For years, Sam Raimi thought that we, us fans, hated him. We don't hate him.
No!
Just Spider-Man 3 just happened to be a bad movie, and it's
Which is one of the benefits to social media. There's a lot of negatives, but one of the benefits to social media is that problems can be talked about in very nuanced ways at no expense to the consumer, So we're able to let him know, hey, actually, we think this specifically. Oh, okay,
Also, I just want to clarify. I said Spider-Man 3 is a bad movie. I actually don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's still pretty great.
Right.
It just has a lot of
Sam
misses,
Raimi.
and it's not on the level of 1 and 2 at all, but it's still a very fun and enjoyable watch. Honestly, the biased fanboy in me, I don't think there's a single bad Spider-Man movie.
You know what, man? That's fair, because that's a hot as fuck tape. I gotta disagree with you. Amazing Spider-Man 2 made me barf, but you go ahead. You tell me what you think about it.
No, I still like the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I have a video on my channel, guys.
Big time. Go and say youtube.com/ is it Squeedo TV or just Squeedo?
It's Squeedo for now.
Okay, there you go.
It might be /Squeed TV in the future. If
Okay, so youtube.com/ Squeed TV. Do that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway. So,
but
I disagree with you, but I see why. And it's okay to have that opinion. You see, unlike the YouTube comments, it's okay to disagree. Exactly. So it's fine. Jesus Christ.
The thing is, when I say there's no bad Spider-Man movie, that doesn't mean I don't think they're all, or that doesn't mean I think they're all perfect. They have,
of course,
the Amazing Spider-Man 2 has a shit ton of flaws and a lot of problems, and yeah, it's probably a bad movie, but to me it's not. To me,
Spider-Man 3, right.
Spider-Man 3, I feel the same way about. The Amazing Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3 to me are on the same level.
You know what? I'm gonna just say TASM. Yeah, TASM 2, because you said Spider-Man 2, and I'm like, you're talking about the good one. Oh, amazing. Oh, okay.
Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing for me. Anyway, moving on. It is what it is. Any other points you had about the re-releases? We talked about this before. The fact that Sony's re-releasing a bunch of their old movies just goes to show how fucking bad Madam Web was. So there you go. Fuck, I know.
Yeah, but hey, I get to watch all the Spider-Man movies in theaters, so
everyone wins. Everyone wins.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.